Welcome back again to MT10 News Vote 2020.
Numbers continue to flood in Tennessee and key battleground states.
And we'll find out about what being a poll worker is really all about.
And what issues matter to college students.
All that and more is coming up. MT10 News Vote 2020 starts right now.
Live from Studio One on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University, it's MT10's coverage of the 2020 election.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Terica Black.
And I'm Cameron Jackson. Welcome to MT10 News Vote 2020. As the results start coming in, both sides of the political spectrum are waiting to see if they will spend the night celebrating or mourning. The Rutherford County GOP is hosting a watch party on the square tonight, hoping for some good news. Reporter Dave Stripling joins us now from the party.
So we're in downtown Murfreesboro at the Republican headquarters down here with Garrett Floyd, chairman of the Rutherford County Young Republicans, who is putting on the big party since the red team did very, very well today.
Yes, sir, we did. Our county has done very well. Our representatives have won their re-elections. We're just thrilled, as thrilled can be. Locally, we're super happy and optimistic for the presidential elections, of course, too. So, yeah, we're here to have a grand old party. That's what we do.
So we're here having a party and watching all of the returns come in for the national races. Who all's here tonight?
We've got a mixed group of our representatives have dropped in to say hello. We have young Republicans, people between the ages of 20 and 40. We have some women Republicans, other members of the GOP. Yeah, a good mix, I would say. Yeah.
Well, we'll let you get back to it. We will let you guys get back to watching the rest of this exciting night of politics here on MT10 News. Thanks for talking to us, Mr. Floyd, Chairman, Rutherford County Young Republicans.
Thanks, Dave. Data reporter Jonas Saich and our data analysis Dr. Ken Blake join us now for the latest poll results.
Terica, it only seems to be getting more and more hectic as we're getting results with more states coming in. I'm joined by, as always, Dr. Blake. Dr. Blake, what are some of the paths to victory despite not having as many electoral votes? Trump leading the popular vote. What are some paths for him to win tonight?
Oh, well, for Trump to win, the big prize that's still on the map are Texas and Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio. Particularly if Trump can pick up Texas, he would be in very good shape. But he's already likely, it appears, to pick up Florida, a little less likely perhaps, but in the running to pick up North Carolina and Georgia. So if you put those three in his column, then Georgia, then winning Texas would be quite a big prize for him. Of course, winning Texas would also be a big prize for Joe Biden, and that would open up a lot of paths for him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and we're going to take a deeper look into some of those battleground states in just a second. Right now, these are the total votes: 50.3% for Trump, 48.1% for Biden. Biden still leading the electoral vote by around 100. He has 205 electoral votes to Trump's 112. However, many of these battleground states, Trump is in favor in, like in Florida. As you can see, the election update early on, 131 to 108. Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, even Minnesota and Iowa. Missouri was just called as well, not but 20 minutes ago. And then you also have North Carolina. You're looking at Florida, and Dr. Blake, 51 to 47. Does Biden have enough with about 94% reporting to make a comeback and win that?
I'm sorry, in which state?
In Florida.
In Florida. I think that's probably a long shot at this point, but anything's possible. But I think that would be a tough one for him. I think Florida's probably in Trump's column.
Yeah, he's below and just under 400,000 votes behind Donald Trump. If you take a look at one of the other battleground states, you mentioned Texas. That would be huge for Biden. Right now, looking in Trump's favor, where do you see that going with 81% reported?
Gosh, that one's hard to say. There aren't a lot of mail-in votes in Texas probably to be counted, so So I don't think that Biden can particularly count on that. But it's an awfully close one. That's going to be certainly one to watch.
Yeah, those were one of the few toss-up states that may have flipped, according to some of the 538 projections right now, only up by 4% behind 400,000 votes. If you go to Ohio, Dr. Blake, you mentioned it earlier, no Republican candidate has won without winning Ohio. A Democrat has only won without Ohio 3 separate times, one of the most underrated states to grab in election night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interestingly, if you right now, if you give Trump Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, and give him Ohio, and leave the other key states open, Biden still has a little over 1,000 ways to win compared to Trump's about 800, almost 900 ways to win. So, at least numerically, Ohio is not necessary as things currently stand for Biden, but we'll have to wait for more clarity on that one too.
Ohio back in 2016 was won by 16 points in 2016. Right now, only up about 5 points in that state. Pennsylvania, one that Biden pretty much has to win if he wants to get on top and not make it a nail biter or even a Trump victory. Trump is winning that one by about 9%. How big of a deal is it that Pennsylvania, with 33% reporting, is still in Trump's favor?
Pennsylvania would be an awfully nice prize for Joe Biden. That would give him, let's see, almost 4 times as many ways to win as compared to Trump. However, if Pennsylvania ends up in Trump's column, again, Biden still has more ways to win if you give Trump Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, and leave the other states, the other key states, hanging for the moment.
And you got to think California still hasn't even put their votes. They are primarily blue. That's going to be about 55 electoral votes right to Biden's column. So he really needs to snag not a lot of these, but just a few key crucial states. One of those also being not just Pennsylvania, but as you can see here on the map, you're going to see Michigan. Michigan is a big one that he wanted, 43.5% for Biden, 54.7% for Trump. Do you think that trend's going to stay with states along like Michigan and Wisconsin and Ohio, or could those be flipped either way?
Let's see. Michigan right now is, let's see. Yeah, Trump's got the lead there. What's the, we only have about 41% of the votes reported so far in Michigan. So I'd hold off on putting Michigan in either candidate's column just yet.
Yeah, a lot of these are too close to call. Michigan, as we just talked about, Pennsylvania, Ohio, you have Wisconsin, which we're just about to take a look at Wisconsin. A lot of these are going to be misconstrued because early mail-in voting is going to leave these states having a few extra days to call it. Trump is ahead by 1.5 percentage points. I want to talk to you about that, Dr. Blake. What is the impact that these mail-in ballots are going to have, primarily for the Democratic side, since majority of Democrats voted mail-in compared to Republicans?
Well, that's one possible scenario in this election. It could be that the votes we're seeing right now in these states tend to represent people who voted today, and those people would probably be overwhelmingly Republican, or at least more Republican than Democratic. And as these mail-in ballots come in, those mail-in ballots are more likely to be Democratic, and that could eat away at the margin of the Republicans have in some of these states. And that's going to take a day or two at least to pan out. So you know, if we don't know who the winner is tonight when we all go to bed, and that's looking increasingly likely, it really could come down to those mail-in ballots.
Yeah, as the night goes on, it appears more and more likely that we're going to have to wait maybe at least a day or two until we finally get some solidified results. Talk about North Carolina. Their percentages were skewed at the beginning because a lot of it was early voting or mail-in voting. Now you see with about 93, 94% reporting, Trump has a 1.1% lead. With North Carolina not usually being the one that flips elections, is this still an important state to grab with about 11 electoral votes?
Yeah, oh yeah, it is. I think current forecasts are predicting that Trump's going to pick up North Carolina. It's certainly going to help Trump if he does. If Joe Biden were to turn that around, it would improve his chances, to be sure. But I think that North Carolina is probably going to go Trump. That's what the needle on the New York Times website is saying. Incidentally, the AP just called Washington, Oregon, and California for Biden, so the entire West Coast. No big surprise here, but the electoral count is now 209 to 112 with the addition of those three.
A lot of those battleground races, around 6 or 7, are in favor of Trump, but they are still too early to call. Dr. Blake, fantastic as always. We will continue our updates throughout the night, but until then, Terica, Cameron.
A Tennessee college student spent her election season by not just studying for her midterms. Nate Parris has more.
The younger generation has become heavily involved in the election campaigning process. Look no further to find Keely Saich, a senior at the University of Tennessee, who has spent the last year and a half as the president of the Tennessee College Democrats, as well as a delegate for presidential candidate Joe Biden.
I ran as an at-large delegate, so it's a little bit different because that's statewide. So basically the way the at-large and Pleo delegates were decided this year was the Biden and the Bernie campaign did like a joint platform, and they basically chose the people. Like we were like vetted, like, you know, like voting history was checked, and like they, I guess, like picked the people that they thought would be best. And I think like a lot of that had to do with like demographic info and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I was chosen.
She also serves on the executive board for the Tennessee Democratic Party, which awarded her the opportunity to serve as the roll call candidate for Tennessee at this year's Democratic National Convention.
Tennessee cast 23 votes for Bernie Sanders and 50 votes for our next president of the United States, Mr. Joseph R. Biden.
So it kind of came as like a surprise to me. I didn't really see that coming, and like honestly I was like shocked that they chose me, but grateful of course nonetheless. And it was probably one of like my favorite experiences ever. I, you know, had to like memorize like my speech, and then like we had a practice run the night before, and I had never stayed at the Hermitage before, so that was also cool. And it was cool just to be there. I think like Tennessee's was particularly cool just because of like the 100-year anniversary of like women's suffrage, which of course, you know, like it wasn't all women that got the right to vote, but it's still a historic event, and that part was really cool to me.
Someday she hopes to hold a political office, but for now, she's happy to be where she is. For MT10, I'm Nate Parris.
Nearly 10 million people aged 18 to 29 had cast their ballots as of yesterday. With so many young people heading to the polls, some wonder what issues are on the minds of these voters. Jonas Saich asked students on MTSU's campus what issues were on their minds when they cast their ballots.
Today is the big day. The country will decide who the president will be. And now, more than ever, people are waiting for controversy and conflict. This election has caused more divide than in recent years, especially among college students. But what exactly are they voting for? We took to campus grounds to ask the students of MTSU to find out.
I was thinking about the economy and a lot of the current issues that now apply to me, that I'm over 18, and I was thinking about social justice.
I like how Trump's running the economy. I like how he's opened up millions of jobs for minorities and things of that nature, and how he's been handling the tensions lately in the country.
The economy and social issues such as racial injustice are among the top for college students. We also asked those who attended the presidential debate at Belmont, where protesters on both sides showed their support or disapproval for the candidates. Still, the debate raged on.
I vote for the person that mostly support the Second Amendment. I'm a firm believer in that. Also a fiscal conservative, so I have to vote for the party that would raise taxes the least.
Trump is just not a good leader. I think that he's very disorganized, and we need someone who can just listen to science and actually lead our country.
There were even some undecided voters on the table. They make up less than 4% of all voters.
One of these young college-age voters joins us now. Mira Rimpus is a student here at MTSU, double majoring in political science and history. She is also the president of the American Democracy Project and was a poll worker in Antioch. Mira, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
To begin, tell us about your experience as a poll worker.
Well, I woke up at about 4:45 this morning and was required to be at the polls at 6 a.m. I lasted at the polls from 6 a.m. until 7 when we closed. And then we were there until 8, finishing all of our closing. We got a nice, lovely, individually packaged lunch so that we could maintain social distancing guidelines. No potlucks were allowed. But it was a day full of helping many, many first-time voters get to cast their first ever ballot in a presidential election, and many, many returners as well.
I was one of those first-time voters, but as a college student, what issue do you feel is most relevant to you right now?
As an activist, it is very troubling to know that so many of our rights are on the ballot, meaning that things that shouldn't necessarily be considered controversial or political in any aspect, just human rights, are something that are being debated by politicians we are expecting to serve us and that we have elected to represent us, who are falling short.
The American Democracy Project. Tell us a little bit about that and how important it is.
So the American Democracy Project is an organization that is nonpartisan by nature. It is something that I have worked with my mentor, Dr. Mary Evans, with all year. Basically, our job is to register students to vote, and then after we have done that and gotten that work done, it is our job to get students to the polls. This year, through my position with the American Democracy Project, we actually essentially hijacked one of the bus routes on campus. We had a fully functioning bus. We stole the green route, and we allowed students to get dropped off at the polling locations and all throughout campus.
So we're all young people here, and you're young as well. Within that crucial 18 to 29 demographic, though, why do you feel that it is important for young people to be actively involved in politics?
We're next. I think that we are the age that are responsible for change that happens in the future. And I think that in order for us to actually see change happen in the way that we wish for it to happen, we have to be responsible for making it happen. We have to be the people that step up to the plate and make sure that it gets done.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your insights. Coming up next on the 11 p.m. hour, find out how some in Tennessee are having their votes suppressed.
And we'll take a look at the shifting voter demographics in past elections. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Cameron Jackson.
And I'm Terica Black. We'll see you back at the 11 p.m. here on MT10 News. Stay tuned.